Well, this is actually a good news story. In fact, a tremendous news story. Just to be trite about it a little bit, the old Schoolhouse Rock story about the way laws are supposed to be made. The senator listens, he goes to Washington, a bill is passed, it's signed by the president, and something happens. Doesn't happen enough these days, but here's an example of it happening. And I'm really here to say thank you to Al Montoya and his extraordinary staff, everybody who works in the VA here in Connecticut. We are third in the country in the vaccination rates for the whole nation. We are third in Connecticut. And I think by the end of it all, we may be first, because Al Montoya is going to tell you about some of the increased numbers of doses that we're going to have just next week. Thousands more coming to Connecticut. But here is the good news. If you are a veteran, a spouse, a caregiver, come here to be vaccinated. Regardless of your income, regardless of whether you're enrolled in the VA healthcare system, even if you're just a spouse, not just a spouse, especially if you're a spouse or a caregiver. Now, here's the reason for this program. Number one, the availability of vaccines to spouses and caregivers as well as veterans means there's less pressure on the rest of our healthcare system in delivering vaccines. People are signing up in droves. They can come here instead. But equally important, what I heard from Al and from others here, and it's true around the country, is a lot of veterans are reluctant to come here if they can't bring their spouse or if their caregiver isn't going to receive the vaccine. They don't want to come alone. Their caregiver or spouse is left vulnerable. They're going to wait until the vaccine is available to everybody in their family. We want them to know your spouse, your caregiver can come with you, get the vaccine at the same time. We listen to them, to our veterans, as well as to the VA staff. And my colleagues and I, by the way, bipartisan, Senator Moran of Kansas and I helped to lead this legislation, said we need to open the system to spouses and caregivers, as well as veterans who may not be enrolled in the VA healthcare system. We passed this bill in a matter of weeks, passed on March 17th, signed by the President March 24th. Right now, there are doses here in Newington, West Haven, and they're going to take it on the road. And I'm going to be visiting with them as they go on the road to make sure that every veteran who wants it, there's no compulsion, but every veteran who wants it, and you should want it, will have it. 2 of my sons have already gotten their vaccinations through the VA system. Matt went to West Haven, I think, just last week. And they're going to have Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson. They'll have the full panoply. I don't know too many places that have all three, but the VA is going to have all three. So let me just say, finally, service in our military is really a family affair. The family serves when anybody serves. And so too should health care be available to the family of every veteran, particularly when we're talking about vaccines. Now, we may not be able to provide all kinds of service, but a vaccine should be available to the entire family, at least to the spouse and to a caregiver. And that's the message we heard, that's the message we took to Washington, to open this system to spouses and caregivers, because we are going from scarcity to abundance now in the availability of the vaccine. And that's a great tribute to the VA, and I just really want to thank Al and his extraordinary team, top to bottom. I've watched them work. I've been here in Newington a few weekends ago. I've been to the clinic in West Haven. People are happy, they're relieved, and so too will be their spouses and caregivers. So thanks to them, and great news.
Yeah, so sir, I really appreciate, as I mentioned, the support. Since December 15th, we've started our vaccination process here at VA Connecticut across the state. Very, very excited. As a team, we've been able to roll this out, and so far we've delivered over 22,000 vaccinations to our veterans. When you add our employees on there as well, that number goes well over 25,000. So really excited about that. Combined doses is over 41,000 doses across the state. And so I think this opens the door to make sure that we're continuing to vaccinate employees, spouses, veterans, and everyone in between. So
I think employees are now up to 85%.
that is correct. Yep. Employees as of yesterday was about 85%, and we're continuing now to offer J&J, which we have starting next week, to any employees that want that as well. So happy to answer any questions that there may be.
Did you reach out to the senator to say you want to do this?
So, the senator and I have a pretty good relationship from day one of becoming here, the medical center director here. We've been in communication, and so when he visited one of our clinics, some of our veterans were expressing their concerns that their spouses could not get the vaccine with us. And so we had that conversation, and the senator went straight to work and started developing how that would look and what that would feel like, and so we're happy to be able to do that to our veterans in Connecticut today.
And I talked to a number of my colleagues on the Veterans Affairs Committee, John Tester of Montana, as I mentioned, Jerry Moran of Kansas, John Bozeman of Arkansas. They're both Republicans. The VA committee is very bipartisan in the way we approach these issues. And I will say also, as Al mentioned, we are in touch a lot, often by phone. Just to give you an example, when Dennis McDonough, the new VA secretary, was up for confirmation, I had a fairly lengthy meeting with him. In preparation for it, I talked to Al. What should I ask him? I asked him to rebuild our VA facility in West Haven, and he's going to give it more priority. So, that kind of relationship is very good for our veterans as well as for getting stuff done.
I had a question about the vaccines overall. We're seeing more and more people getting vaccinated. The CDC is, I guess, lightening its restrictions for the holiday weekend with gatherings. Is that a step in the right direction, or do you think, a lot of people are concerned about letting their guard down, or do you think that this is what's going to happen because more and more people are being vaccinated?
That's a great question. I was just early this morning, I was at the First Congregational Church in Greenwich, where they have small markers, flags, for all of the 8,000 people who have passed away in Connecticut. It is a powerful reminder that we need to keep our guard up. There is no cause for complacency. We are still in this fight, and we are in a deadly race against time, because the more time passes without everybody being vaccinated, the more the virus spreads, the more it mutates. Variants eventually will be resistant to this vaccine, and we'll be back in lockdown. So the more people who are vaccinated as quickly as possible, coming here to the VA or elsewhere, the safer we are all going to be. And wearing masks, physical distancing, all the precautions still have to be in effect.
Right, because it seems like a delicate balance. Yes, more people are vaccinated, and people are anxious to be with their families. But we've seen in other parts of the state and other parts of the country where people are, kind of letting their guard down, and there are variants on the way, and we don't know how long these vaccines last either.
The vaccine lasts for at least 6 months, probably much longer. But as we reopen, it needs to be done responsibly. Wearing masks, getting vaccinated, physical distancing. There's a way to reopen responsibly. But letting our guard down and totally abandoning precautions and failing to be vaccinated is a recipe for catastrophe. And none of us want to go back to a time where we couldn't travel, we couldn't be with families or go to restaurants. There's a way to reopen responsibly. And I think the VA and other clinics, in providing these vaccines amply and abundantly, are helping us to reopen responsibly, especially this time of year. People want to come together, they want to be with family, they're going to graduations. 2 of my children are graduating. We're going to do the ceremony in our driveway. I'm going to officiate and do a commencement address for all 9 of our family who are gathering for this august occasion. You know, it isn't what it might have been, but we're going to try to do stuff responsibly because none of us want to go back to that time. It was so painful. And I go back to the image this morning. You know, I was there about a year ago and there were 4,000. Like now there are 8,000. Every one of them stands for somebody lost, for family, sons and daughters, parents. We have been through such a time of hardship and heartbreak. None of us want to go back to it.
And I think that's the beauty of the Save Lives Act, right? Is it really allows VA Connecticut as well as VAs across the country to be able to deliver vaccines to spouses, caregivers, and veterans, regardless of when they served or how they served. And so I think we're very excited about it here at VA Connecticut because across the state, we're planning events. In fact, we'll put a press release out later today that has every single day next week where we're going to have an event. To include next weekend, we're doing one up with Commissioner Sadi at Rocky Hill. So really excited about this because it does open up that ability for us to provide that quality of care to individuals outside of those being veterans.
It's called the Save Lives Act. Save Lives Act.
Could you talk about the caregiver side? Why you and other senators felt to include caregivers and
Yeah, that's a really important question. You know, all too often the caregivers are ignored. They're the ones who often provide life-saving, quality of life care to veterans as they grow older or if they're disabled. And those caregivers have been on the job day in and day out at risk to themselves, taking care of veterans. And veterans want them to be taken care of. So that's the reason to include the caregivers. They're constantly at work, just like folks who do child care, teachers. Veterans caregivers are performing a vital service. They're not only transforming the quality of life for these veterans, but they're also often saving lives and saving money because veterans don't have to go into institutional care. They can stay at home. So for all kinds of reasons, the caregivers are really doing great service and they deserve to be protected.
Is there another bill that you're working on now for veterans?
Yeah, there are a lot of others. I don't know whether you, it's a little bit off topic, but you know, the simple fact is we need to do better for our veterans. One area that's tremendously important, and it fits to the program that the President of the United States announced, President Biden announced just the day before yesterday, our infrastructure needs repair. I'm hoping that the infrastructure program announced by President Biden will include VA facilities because so many of them need rebuilding and renovation, none more so than our West Haven facility. It dates from the 1950s. It needs to be completely rebuilt. My objective in this infrastructure bill, among quite a number, is the money to rebuild West Haven VA. The President's infrastructure program should rebuild VA facilities, but most especially the VA facility in West Haven, which needs more than just cosmetic renovation, it needs rebuilding. I'm not speaking for the VA director here, but I've made this point to Dennis McDonough, as I mentioned, the new VA secretary, and he's very sympathetic. We've been trying to do it for years. Rosa DeLore is a great partner in this effort, and that's among the initiatives. We're also trying for more job training, more education, trying to protect veterans against some of the scams with for-profit colleges. There are a variety of things we're working on. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
All right, so I know, I think you guys were downstairs already. We're going to head downstairs real quick.